I'm Faye Grace. This year I have had a reading goal of reading 30 books. Last year I read 16. We're not going to talk about it. Things happened. Life happened. So yeah, this year I'm trying to read 30 books. This month I read 6. I'm super proud of that. My goal was to read 2. So yeah, I'm just going to go over those and see if this, does well. We'll see how this turns out. Maybe I'll do this. I know I want to do, at the end of the year, go over the books I read in the year, but kind of more as just a very quick thing, where this, I feel like I can go a little bit more detailed with each of the books. So yeah, we're going to start on that. The first book I read this year was The Rifle by Gary Paulson, and it's genuinely one of the best books I've read in a long time. Probably, it's up in my top 15. It's incredibly short. It's just over 100 pages, and the type isn't that small, so it was one I read in 2 days, which was great. And I think it's incredibly worth the time that I spent reading it, and I think I even now I'm already I want to go back to reading it. It tells the story of a gunsmith guy who makes a gun, and then the gun, you get to go along with the gun and find out its journey, and it's kind of boring, not gonna lie, but at the end it just hits you so hard, and it's very powerful, and it's one of the best books I read in a long time. What can I say? I rate it 5 stars out of 5. It's so good, and I genuinely, if you are interested in books, even that are just slightly historical fiction, I recommend it. If you're interested in books about guns, I recommend it. If you're interested in books that have a very powerful, message, and I recommend The Rifle, Gary Paulson. It's something I could, I really enjoyed this book. The second book I read this year was Smile by Rainey Telemaque. I never know how to say her last name. I'm just not going to say it. I know her first name's Raina, or Rainey. Raina? I'm terrible with names. This is perfect, But it was the second book I read this year, and it was definitely a very nice to read, something that isn't as dense. The Rifle is short, but it's a very dense read just because it has a very high lexile level. It's got a lot of big words. It's got a lot of talk on mechanical things, which is interesting, but it's very heavy. It's very much after this I want to go take a nap, But it was nice to read a graphic novel. I read it in a day. Nothing terrible. I read it mainly because I actually just recently got this and the sequel to it, Sisters, just to have in my library, because I think I've read it before, but I don't remember exactly if I have read it before. I believe I read part of it before. I don't know if I read the whole thing, so I got it and I decided to read it, and Sisters is on my list to read as well. I believe there is actually another book after this called Guts. I don't know for sure, though. I'll need to look it up, but I'd like to buy that book as well, just to have the whole series. I really enjoyed Ghosts, which is a book she also has written and illustrated, another graphic novel, so I figure might as well just read the books that are written about her own life. I think it's very interesting to read memoirs and stories of yourself, especially in graphic novel form. I think it's great. I rated this 4 stars, by the way. I found it very relatable. Myself having had braces and dealing with the drama of a younger sister, so yeah. Third book I read was Crossed by Ali Condi, which before I even just started talking about this book, I just have to preface that I've met the author. She's a wonderful person. Loved having conversation with her. Hated this book. Hated this book so much. It was so boring. I was dragging my feet to read the entire time. The entire time I was only reading it genuinely out of spite, and also because I want to finish the series. I don't like starting series and not finishing them, so I hated this book the entire time, and then I got to the last 30 pages, and it was amazing. I loved the ending of it, to the point where it conflicts me to give it a star rating. And I settled on 2.5 or 3 stars, because the ending is amazing. The ending is so good, but it's just that the entire rest of the book is just so boring, and I was so bored by the drama, and I think the love triangle is dumb, and I think that it's obvious who she should go with, and she should go with the guy she knows growing up, because it would just solve the problems. But of course, no, she's gonna go with the guy that's mysterious and different. So, love triangles are not my favorite trope. So I rated it 2.5 to 3 stars. It's in a little bit of an ambiguous category just because I don't know where to feel about it, how to feel about it. The fourth book I ended up reading was Dr. Jekyll Mr. Hyde by Robert Louis Stevenson. I always forget what his name is halfway through. It's got a long name. Long name, gang. I read this book in about 2 days. It's pretty short, and this is including like a bunch of anecdotes from different authors, and honestly, it was incredibly boring. I knew the twist already, so it was really not my favorite. You know, if you don't know the twist to Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, I'd be surprised, but I don't really recommend reading it. It's pretty boring, it's pretty short, so it's not like a time waster, but it isn't something that I would go back and reread. So I gave it a 2 to 3 star rating. It's, again, one of those ambiguous books just because I'm like, it was okay. So I'd say 3 stars, actually. And I found the writing mostly pretty boring, and I think I'd blame that on it being written in the 1880s and me being somebody in the 21st century. It's an old book. The 5th book I read was Teen Destiny by Cheryl Woods, which I will be covering my thoughts in another video, which will either be coming out in about a week or so, or will be linked in the description as it has already come out. I rated it 2 stars because I hated it and it wasn't worth my time. But I'll be covering my thoughts on it in a more drawn out video that talks about the process of me reading a bunch of really terrible, crappy romance novels that I inherited. So yeah, it was a waste of my time for the most part. So it wasn't terrible, but it was pretty bad. So 2 stars. Last book I read for the month was The Glass Castle by Jeanette Walls. I find stories like these to be very, not inspirational because it's not a good story necessarily. Like it's well written, but it's not a happy story. But I did find it to be an incredible read, and I really did enjoy it. So I recommend it if you're interested in memoirs and historical fiction or books on poverty in the US, books about just really everything. But this book really got to me. I get really emotionally attached to children in books, especially for whatever reason. And so to see these children go through very abusive and poverty-ridden situations when they could have gotten help, they could have gotten taken care of, they could have been out of there multiple times, but just things happened and they didn't. It really hurt, and it got to me, and the ending with the youngest daughter really, took me for a spin because I have my own younger sister in her, and I see myself as an oldest sister. It hurt to see these kids get hurt. But I genuinely recommend this book, and I rate it 5 stars. It's one of the best books I've read in a while. Again, this and The Rifle are sitting up there pretty high right now on my list. So, yeah. Overall, I am incredibly proud of the rate I read this month, and I hope that I'm able to continue with it. And so for the next month, my book goal will be 3 books, which is just a little bit more, but it's just enough more that I figure I can do it. And February is shorter, so I don't have those extra couple days to get those last 2 books in, like I did with last month. If you made it this far, thank you for watching. Do all those fun YouTube things, like, subscribe, comment, all that stuff. And if you're on your own reading journey, I wish you well. Anyway, I'm gonna head out, and thanks for watching. Bye!